You can start.
Sure. Welcome, friends, to a great session with none other than the world's #1 executive coach, Dr. Marshall Goldsmith. I'm Inderjeet, and I'm an ICF MCC. And as Marshall Goldsmith certified coach, I represent a 3,500 strong global community of Marshall Goldsmith coaches. And today I'm here to get the ball rolling for this session. This session has been the brainchild of my colleague, Anu Oza. Anu Oza has over 25 years of international experience in leadership development, diversity and inclusion, and CSR. A graduate of Harvard, the London School of Economics, and the Tata Institute of Social Sciences, she has worked with large organizations like HUL, the UN, Mercer, and is currently a director HR with Ford. So without delaying further, I'm going to invite Anu to take over and introduce Dr. Marshall Goldsmith. Over to you, Anu.
Thank you so much, Inderjeet, and Marshall. A warmest of welcomes to all of to you from all of us in India as part of the NHRD network. It is an honor and a pleasure to host you, and thank you for agreeing to speak on the topic of courage at such short notice.
Very happy to be here.
Thank you. To all of you out there, you all know that Marshall is the world's #1 executive and business coach. He is an author or editor of 42 books. Yes, you got that right, 42 books. He has pioneered stakeholder-centered coaching, which, apart from showing real results for coachees, is also embedded in a process which is full of integrity and honesty to the coachee and to all the stakeholders involved. A little bit about him as a person. As a person, Marshall is generous to a fault with his time, his energy, and his resources, which are available for free to thousands and millions of people worldwide on his specific website. Additionally, to all of us who have been fortunate to be part of his 100 coaches or his mentees program, he has played the role almost of a family member, including officiating at weddings, christenings, and birthday parties. So the warmest of warm welcomes to
Hello, hello.
the graceful.
Anu, I can't hear you. You're frozen.
Can you hear me now?
Now let's start over. Let's start over because you just stopped and
Right.
kind of froze.
So,
Okay, then we can go ahead now. Now I can't hear you again.
So Dr. Marshall Goldsmith, she gave you a warmest of welcome and invited you to start our session.
Okay.
Good. Hey, Inderjeet, can you hear Anu? She keeps freezing on my screen.
No, even I can't, sir, right now. Right now, even I can't. Yeah.
So would you like to say something, or would you like me to start?
I just have a question. Are we recording this for archive use, right? Yeah, you may want to start. You're just frozen right now. Inderjeet, can you hear her?
No, sir, even I cannot hear her. And
I can't either.
Yeah, so what we could do is we could start, like she already welcomed you, sir. And if you would like to share some words about yourself, and in the meantime, Anu would come back.
All right. And again, you may want to have someone call her and check on the technology side because it just seems to be breaking down.
Sure, sir.
So anyway, I'll briefly introduce myself. My name is Marshall. I'm from a small town called Valley Station, Kentucky. I went to school in Indiana, got a PhD at UCLA. I was a college professor and dean when I was very, very young. And then for the last 43 years, I've done a few basic things. I give talks or teach classes. So I travel all around the world speaking and teaching. I write books and articles. And as Anu mentioned, I've written or edited 42 books. I've done 6 bestsellers, 3 really big bestsellers. And then the others purchased by my mother, my father, and relatives. And then the other thing I do is I coach executives. So I've been coach of many, many CEOs around the world, Pfizer, Glaxo, the World Bank. And one of my great clients is a former CEO of Ford, Alan Mulally, a person I just love, one of my best friends. And then coaching is where I learn everything. And I went to a program called Design the Life You Love. And in the program, the woman said, who are your heroes? My heroes are very kind and generous people who are nice teachers. And she said, why don't you be like them? So I thought, a great idea. So I decided that I would adopt 15 people, teach them all I know for free. And the only price is when they get old, they would have to do the same thing. So I made a little video and put it on LinkedIn. And I have 1.3 million followers on LinkedIn. And well, it turned out over 18,000 people applied for adoption. So now I've adopted about, 280 people. And the program is called 100 Coaches. It's just a wonderful idea of people giving back. And then I had an idea over the weekend, last weekend, and I said, I'm just getting old. I want to give away all my material to everyone, but I'm going to recruit volunteers to help me. So I'm going to give everything away to everybody, package it all so you can use it in corporations, use it any way you wish. And so I just put another little thing out there on LinkedIn. It turned out about 380 people viewed this, and I've had 2,600 people so far volunteer to help me. So I've got a lot of recruits. And as you said, Inderjeet, I like to just give everything away. Now, from a technical point of view, if anyone listening is in IT, I have the world's best security system. Very clever. I have the world's best security system. You see, no one has ever stolen any of my intellectual property. Never. Why? You cannot steal what people give you. You can't steal.
Okay, so Inderjeet, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Okay, so Dr. Marshall, thank you so much for stepping in while we had a slight tech glitch. Marshall, I hope you heard my introduction. So let me first ask you the question, why is courage so important today? And how does one build one's ability to act courageously?
All right, well, to me, there are 3 variables that are critical for improving as a leader. Courage, humility, and discipline. And they're all very closely connected. Courage is, it's very hard to look in the mirror. It's very, very hard to look in the mirror and see ourselves like other people see us. Everyone talks about accountability. Everyone says we want people to be accountable. That's very easy in theory. It's just very difficult when we apply to ourselves. It's very hard to be personally accountable. Number 2 is it takes humility. And another part of courage and humility, which I think are totally related, is to say, I can do better, I need help. Many leaders don't have the humility to say this, because in a way, humility takes courage. It takes courage to be honest, just to tell people who you are and that you do need help and that you're a human being. And then the other third part, which is related to courage, is discipline. You just have to do that day to day, hard work, and keep going. And if you have courage, humility, and discipline, the people I coach get better. And if you don't have courage, humility, and discipline, they don't get better. So I think courage is one of the most important variables for, at least in my world, to help leaders improve. And, more important today than ever, because in the past, you see, typically the leader was considered superior to the people being led. Today, that's not true. I had the privilege of spending 50 days with the great Peter Drucker. I was on his advisory board for 10 years. And he introduced me to the concept of knowledge worker. Well, a knowledge worker knows more about what they're doing than their boss does. So you can't tell them what to do and how to do it. If you're a CEO and you know more about marketing than the marketing person today, and more about HR than the HR person, more about finance than the finance person, you do not have a leadership problem. You have a selection problem. You have the wrong team. So today, leaders want people to know more than them. And when people know more than you can't just tell them what to do and how to do it. You have to ask, you have to listen, and you have to have the courage to be human. So that's why I think it's more important today than ever.
So do you think it's possible to be coached to be courageous? There must be a psychology of courage, right? Or are you just born courageous and you're not?
Wrong. No, I do not believe that at all. I mean, I'm often asked this question, are leaders born or are leaders made? Well, the first thing is, let me answer the first part of that question. Are leaders born? Yes. I have never worked in my life with a leader who was not born. So indeed, leaders are born. Leaders are always born. They're always born. Leaders are born. Yes, they are indeed born. Now, the question is, can leaders get better? Yes. Can people become more courageous? Of course they can. Anybody can change anything unless they have an incurable genetic defect. And by the way, I don't believe this, that's just the way I am nonsense, right? When people say that's just the way I am, that's just the way they're going to be. I just recently did one of these talks with a woman who said, well, no, I'm just nervous. That's the way I am. Well, that's terrible. You know, you don't have to be nervous. That's just the way you have been. That doesn't mean you have to continue being that way forever.
Well, isn't that interesting that you gave that example, Marshall? So let let me go to another question. As leaders rise in the hierarchy, many people have told me this, that it becomes more and more difficult to be courageous because your neck is on the line. Your targets are higher and higher. Your fear of failure is stronger and stronger. But everyone knows that it's guts, it's courage that is the difference between good and great. So I'm actually quoting a CEO almost verbatim when I'm asking you this question. What advice would you give people as they rise the ladder to continue being courageous, to go for the moonshots?
Well, the first bit of advice I would have is this. As you rise up the ladder, it's harder and harder and harder to hear the truth. In my home, I do these programs for retiring CEOs, and I've done 8 of these. And one of the participants was Mike Duke, who at the time was the CEO of Walmart. And, you know, Mike said, you know, I had this little joke I told when I was the CEO of Walmart. It was a clean joke. It didn't offend anyone. Everyone laughing at my little joke. It was such a nice joke. And I always told this to every new group, this little joke, and everyone loved my joke. And then he said, I retired as CEO of Walmart. And I told my little joke, and he said, no one laughed. He said, well, they must be very grumpy. I told my little joke to another group. No one laughed. Finally said, my wife said, Mike, you idiot. You idiot. Did you think the stupid joke was funny? Well, when he was the CEO of Walmart, his joke was funny. When he wasn't the CEO of Walmart anymore, that joke was not so funny. Well, the higher up you go, people quit telling you the truth. And you have to have the courage to reach out. And I like getting confidential feedback because it gets harder. Speaking of courage, it's harder and harder and harder for them to tell you the truth. So as you become higher up, you need to have that courage to ask for input. Now, to me, there's a difference between 2 terms you seem to be confusing. One is courage and the other is risk.
Okay. Good
and you said taking moonshots, there's nothing inherently good about taking moonshots. Most people that take huge risk fail. So when you move up an organization, it doesn't mean you want to necessarily take more risk. Sometimes you want to take more risk, but there's nothing inherently courageous about taking stupid risk. So there's a difference between courage and stupidity. People that take risk, you can say they're courageous, but most people that take risk fail. And so, you know, that's why a lot of research on management, I think, is very flawed. You know, the idea that if you take big risk, you win. No, every waitress in Hollywood took a big risk, and they're all waited on tables. They all failed. So the definition of risk is you usually don't win. So we deify people who take big risks and win. We don't talk about the zillion people who take big risks and lose. So when you get higher up in an organization, it's fine to take good risk. It's not fine to take stupid risk. My friend Alan, who went to Ford, took fantastic risk, yet it wasn't a stupid risk. He took a risk that made sense. He thought out that risk. He was an engineer. It wasn't some casual, let's just go for it and it's going to happen.
Wow, that's a brilliant answer. Courage versus risk.
Yeah, they're
Brilliant
not
answer.
the same.
Thank you. Thank you very much for pointing that out. Um, can you tell me, Marshall, about your stakeholder-centered process? What I've
Yes,
really admired about it is the sheer integrity in the process.
right.
How did you ever have the courage to put yourself on the line that much and
Oh,
say, pay me if you get
pure,
results?
purely by accident. All right. Now, you have to tell you two stories to go together. The first story is, how did I get into the leadership development business? I met a very famous man named Dr. Paul Hersey, who invented situational leadership with Ken Blanchard. And
Right.
when I was very, very young, and I followed him around to try to learn what he did. And one day he became double booked. And he said, "Can you do what I do?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "I need help. Can you do it?" "I don't know." He said, "I'll pay you $1,000 for a day." I was making $15,000 for a year. I said, "I don't know, I'll try." I did this program. I was amazingly successful. They loved me. They were angry when I showed up because it wasn't him, but then I was a success. Yay. He said, "You want to do it again?" That's how I got into business. So where did coaching begin? Years ago, I was working with the CEO of a big company. We did 360 feedback. He said, "I've got this young man working for me, young, smart, dedicated, hardworking, driven to achieve, creative, entrepreneurial, arrogant, stubborn jerk." He said, "It would be worth a fortune to me if I could change that guy's behavior." I said, "I like a fortune. Maybe I could help him." He said, "I doubt it." I said, "Maybe I can." Then I came up with an idea. I said, "I'll work with the guy for a year. If he gets better, pay me. If he doesn't get better, it's free." What did he say? Sold. So all of my coaching is done on a pay for results basis ever since then. There was nothing called coaching. I made this up. Where did this come from? It didn't come from the sky. I made it up. Well, that's where it came from. Now, let me give you my inspiration for the pay for results. Years ago, I was a young boy, 14 years old, back in Kentucky. We were very poor, and our roof had a leak. And my dad hired a roofer named Dennis Mudd to put on the roof. Dennis Mudd was also very poor, but Dad had me help Dennis Mudd because, maybe save a little money. So I'm working with Dennis Mudd, and he worked very hard and he was very dedicated, and he even made me proud of the roof. And we got done. He's very proud of the roof. So he looks at my father, whose name is Bill, and he said, "Bill, I would like you to inspect the roof." He said, "If the roof is of high quality, I would like you to pay me. If the roof is not of high quality, it's all free." Now, I looked at Dennis Mudd. He was a very poor man. If he didn't get paid, he didn't eat. And I thought, this man has dignity. Talk about courage. He has more courage than I ever had. He has more dignity than I ever had. You see, if I don't get paid, I still live in a big house. I have money. He was poor, yet he did it. So I thought, man, this man is poor, but he's not cheap. This man has dignity. When I was 14 years old, I said, I would like to be like that man when I grow up.
What an incredibly moving story. What an incredibly moving story. Thank you so much for sharing that, Marshall. I'm not sure I've read that yet in your books, but I really appreciate it. And this is the next question could again possibly come back to courage and risk. Do you think organizations should encourage people to demonstrate courage every day, or do you think it could cause disequilibrium at some point in time? And this again came to me from a CEO, so he really wanted to know.
Again, it depends how you define courage. I mean, every day I think you should look in the mirror and challenge yourself. Now, here's another thing we confuse is courage and willpower.
Okay.
See, I have someone call me on the phone every day just to review questions I write every day. Every day. Somebody asked me, "Why do you do this? Don't you know the theory of how to change behavior?" I wrote the theory of how to change behavior. That's why I do it. My name is Marshall Goldsmith. Speaking of courage, my name is Marshall Goldsmith. I'm too cowardly to do this by myself. I'm too undisciplined to do this by myself. I need help. I need help. And you know what? It's okay. It's okay to need help. You see, one form of courage is admitting you can't do it all on your own. How many of the top 10 tennis players have a coach? 10. Well, you say, why do they have a coach? They're the best in the world. That's why they're the best in the world. Well, to me, it takes courage to say, I don't have the willpower to do everything by myself. And of all the people I coach, one thing I'm very proud of is 30 years ago, no one would admit to having a coach. No CEO would admit to having a coach. They'd be ashamed to have a coach. They'd be embarrassed to have a coach. Well, today, if you look at my book, Triggers, 27 major CEOs endorsed the book. You know, these are among the most powerful leaders in the world. Why am I proud of this? They have the courage to stand up and say, I'm president of the World Bank. I need help. I'm CEO of Pfizer. I need help. I'm the CEO of the Year in the United States. I need help. I'm number 2 CEO of the Year in the United States. I won the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I need help. Hey, who are we kidding? We all need help. Courage is easy to talk about and hard to do. It's very easy to talk about and it's very hard to do. And, you know, I don't have the courage to do all the stuff I teach by myself. I'll be the first to admit that.
Wow.
The thing I do have the courage to do is I admit that I need help. I have enough courage to do that.
Give me an example.
Like I told you, I have someone call me on the phone every day. Why? I need help. Some people need a little coaching. Not me. I need lots of coaching.
This is so interesting because it helps answer questions like, can you actually learn courage? And the answer is yes. And you're also differentiating between courage and willpower, courage and discipline, courage and taking risk. Can you tell me about a time in your life when you have had to draw upon the reserves of courage that you have in order to face really challenging situations?
Well, you know, in my life, just recently, I very seldom get nervous. I mean, I've done this so many times. Some people like get nervous before they speak. I like speaking. I don't get nervous almost ever. I just enjoy myself. Recently, though, I actually gave a talk in front of 50,000 people at once in St. Petersburg, Russia. This is 50,000 people in Russia. 80% do not speak English. So I thought, even for me, this is a little nerve-wracking. You know, they have a marching band, literally a marching band. You know, it's kind of like a circus almost. And I thought maybe I would get nervous. But I just told myself only one thing. I focused on only one mental thought: be happy. Be happy. And everything went great. I can't control the 50,000 people. Just focus on what you can control, not what you can't control. Let me give you, I think, a great example of learning about what you might call courage. And that's from a famous poem. Probably the most famous poem in the world is the Gita, the Bhagavad Gita. Now, to me, the Bhagavad Gita is a great, great learning point in courage. It's a great way to understand today's crisis. In the Bhagavad Gita, as you remember, there was Arjuna, the protagonist, Arjuna, and then there was Krishna. And Arjuna is very upset. What does he say? I could do this, which is very bad. I could do that, which is even worse. This is terrible. What does Krishna say? Suck it up. It is what it is. What do you learn in the Gita? First, you learn pragmatic optimism, pragmatism. Face the reality that exists. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't play games with it. It is what it is. Great learning for today. Face the reality that exists. Don't hide from it. Then number 2, do not get attached to the outcomes. One reason people are afraid is they're attached to the outcomes of what they're doing. Do not get attached to the outcomes. You face the reality that exists. You don't get attached to the outcomes. You come up with a plan, a strategy, and then you do your best. That's it. You learn that from the Gita. That's such a great life lesson for today. Let me give you a parable. The parable of the golfer and a beer can. Okay? The golfer is on the last hole. He has a chance to win his little country club championship. He hits the drive. There's a group in front of him, loud, noisy, drinking beer. He's very annoyed, but he hits the drive. It looks perfect right to the left. It goes into the rough. Terrible. The golfer is upset. What happened? He walks toward the ball. He sees a beer can. The ball was hit his beer can, and then now it's in a terrible position. He's very angry. Those idiots, those fools. What does the smart golfer do? He breathes. Forget the shot.
Let it
Forget
go.
the beer. Let it go. Forget
Let
the
it
beer
go.
can, and do not become attached to the outcomes. Do not become attached to the outcome of the shot. Do not become attached to the outcome of winning the tournament. You focus on one thing. You walk to the ball, you develop a strategy, and then you hit the shot in front of you. You hit the shot in front of you. See, one way you develop courage is you quit focusing on the outcomes. Because when you focus on the outcomes, you're focusing on a past that you can't change anyway, or future that hasn't occurred. Well, that's one reason people are afraid. They're focused on the outcome. What do you learn in the Gita? You focus on now. You focus on the process. One of the a great lesson for courage, I think, came from Harry Kramer. Harry's one of our 100 coaches, was a C.O. Baxter, a wonderful man. Great author now, great speaker. Harry was asked a question about courage. The question was this: Harry, you've had to lay people off in your career. You've had to fire people. You've had to do very difficult things. How do you sleep at night? You know what he said? I asked myself only two questions. Question one, did I do what I thought was right? And question two, did I do my best? If the answer is, did I do what I thought was right? And did I do my best? Make peace. That's all any of us can do at any time. Did I do what I thought was right? And did I do my best? Well, if you look at courage, just ask yourself those two questions. Oh, by the way, if everyone could hit the mute button, some people on the line are not on mute. So did I do what I thought was right? And did I do my best? Just ask yourself those two questions. And that will probably give you the courage to do the right thing. And also, don't get fixated on the outcomes. Why are we afraid? We're afraid because we're fixated on the outcome. I'm afraid this won't work. Are you doing your best? Are you doing what you think is right? Make peace. It's all you can ever do.
Wow. This is just amazing in sense. In fact, what strikes me is how simple the questions are, but how deep they are actually. Simple doesn't mean easy, actually. So that actually leads to my next question, which is, you've written about creation, you've written about preservation, you've written about elimination, and you've written about letting go. And I was telling you before we started our conversation here that I've always had problems with actually just letting go. So can you tell us a little bit about the psychological processes involved in these?
I knew we're going to practice coaching here. You're going to breathe.
All right. Okay.
You're going to raise your right hand. Raise your right hand. You're going to repeat after me.
I raise my right hand. Okay.
My name is Anu.
My name is Anu. My name is Anu.
I used to have a problem with letting go.
I used to have a problem with letting go.
I do not have to do that in the future.
I do not have to do that in the future.
I do not have an incurable genetic defect.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I do not have an incurable genetic defect.
I do not have an incurable genetic defect. Marshall, only you can come up with something like this. It's beautiful. What else? Okay.
Well, you see, if you do not have an incurable genetic defect, you can change.
Yeah.
So, do you really have an incurable genetic defect that's making it impossible for you to let go? No.
No.
Talk yourself into it.
Yeah.
Quit doing that. As long as you say that it's just the way I am, that's just the way you're going to be.
Right.
You don't have to keep doing that. So let me give you another good Buddhist way to look at life. Buddha said, every time I take a breath, it's a new me. So everybody take a deep breath, smile, do your hand this way and say, new me. Ah, new me, new me, new me.
New me, new me.
Everything that happened before this second in your life was done by an infinite set of people. Their names were called the previous me's. The previous me's. Now, let me give you the good news and the bad news. First, the good news is, okay, Anu, close your eyes.
Okay.
Think of all the gifts those hardworking previous Anus have given to you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Think about how hard they tried. Think about all the good things they did to help others.
Mm-hmm.
Now open your eyes.
Yeah.
Open your eyes. If any group of women did that many nice things, what should you say to those nice women?
You rock.
Thank you.
Namaste. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, did they make a little mistake or two?
Sure.
Who is the first person we need to learn to forgive? I've asked thousands of mothers around the world this question. When my child grows up, I want my child to be. One answer comes up from mothers more than every other word in the world combined. One word. What's the word? Happy. If you want your children to be happy, you want your parents to be happy. You want the people that love you to be happy. You want the people that respect your work to be happy. You go first. You be happy. So the first positive of this philosophy is it makes it much easier to forgive yourself. You quit beating yourself up over and over again for the things you've done. The second good thing about this philosophy is every time I take a breath, it's a new me. It's also a challenge because you see, the Anu I'm talking with right now, she has not earned anything in life. That woman has done nothing. Everything you have is inherited. Everything is inherited from those previous women. In many ways, you see, the older versions, the younger versions of ourselves, they're our parents. The younger versions of ourselves help create who we are today. The younger versions of ourselves are our parents, and the older versions of ourselves are children. Our children. And think about, first you say, what do you say to your parents? Thank you. Thank you. And then you want to do your best to help your children, which is the older version of you. Now, this is a very touching story. Anu, one of the people you've met is our friend, Dr. Jim Kim. Dr. Jim Kim and Partners in Health, before being president of World Bank, he probably has personally literally saved 20 to 30 million human lives. Amazing, inspirational man, 20 to 30 million lives. I told my friend, Dr. Kim, the story about the parents and the children. And I said, the younger versions of you are your parents. You know what he said? I hope I make my parents proud. Very touching. Yeah, I hope I make them proud. So a good way to get courage is to look at life that way. Every day you're starting over. And back to accepting. You can't change what you can't change. You can't change what you can't change. You can't change the past. Make peace. So as we journey through life, basically, I have what's called the wheel of change you talked about. The first part is creating. The second part is preserving. And the third part is eliminating.
Eliminating, yeah.
Now, anybody's a Hindu, creating, preserving, eliminating, does that ring a bell?
The Trinity?
Exactly. Yeah, it's, it's creating, preserving, and eliminating. And in life, you need to ask, what do I need to create? If I want to be the new me, the new Anu, what do you want to create? It's new and different. 2, what do you want to preserve? Because there are many things in your whole life you don't want to change. You want to preserve, you want to protect, you want to keep. What is it you need to get rid of or eliminate? Because if all we do is create and preserve, we run out of space and we get overcommitted. And then finally, what do you need to make peace with? What do you need to accept?
So, Marshall, I think this has been incredible because to me, the internal dialogue of courage has come out very clearly. What is it that you tell yourself? Seems to be about 80% of it. And, I am definitely going to summarize this as my gift to you after we finish the interview. I'll go through the interview again and send it to you. But do you think you could summarize maybe in 2-3 lines the internal dialogue of courage? You gave numerous examples, numerous stories. You drew from various traditions. Would you just say 1, 2, 3 bullet points, or would you rather?
To me, I just two bullet points. The first part of courage is asking yourself, what's the right thing to do? Am I doing what I think is right? And having the courage to do what you think is right. Now, here's an important point about courage. Just because you do what you think is right does not mean you are right. Courage does not equal success. There are courageous people that fail. There are cowards who succeed sometimes. Courage is related to success, but do not make the naive assumption courage equals success. It doesn't. It doesn't. So first, did I do what I think is right? That's all you can do. Do I have the courage to do that? What's the right thing to do in my heart? Am I doing what I think is right? To me, that is the essence of courage. And then 2, am I doing my best? Am I doing my best? And if the answer is yes and yes, you will always have the courage to do it. And again, one thing we do wrong in the West is, and business books do this all the time, it's called the survivor bias. And the survivor bias is you study people who are successful and they say, well, this person did this, they are successful. Therefore, if you do this, you will be successful. No, that's very bad research. I have a degree in math. It's called the survivor bias. John had cancer. He envisioned it went away, and it did. Well, therefore, if you envision your cancer goes away, it will. No. 1 million people envisioned their cancer would go away, and it didn't go away. Mary wanted to be a movie star, and she envisioned it would happen, and it did. That's true. But 1,000 waitresses also envisioned being movie stars, and they're waiting on tables. So here's an important point about courage. Courage does not necessarily equal success. In fact, courage will often result in failure. Everyone talks about how great risk is. Risk means failure. Most people who take a risk means there's less than 50% chance it's going to succeed. They will fail. Everyone who takes risk doesn't succeed. Everyone who has courage doesn't succeed. If you want to do something great, you're going to have courage. Just because you have courage doesn't mean you're going to choose something great. And what we want to do is we want to teach things to give people an illusion. And the illusion is if you have courage, you will always succeed. No, you won't. No, you won't. Because the problem with that illusion is then when I do have courage and I try something and I fail, then what do I say? Well, courage is meaningless. I showed courage and I was punished. I failed. Right? You have to say, am I doing what I think is right? And you take a risk. And you have to realize when you take a risk, you often fail. I mean, I've been the coach of the CEO of Pfizer and Glaxo and a lot of drug companies. Most efforts at producing drugs result in failure. 95% at least fail. Well, that doesn't mean it's a bad idea. You have to try. And a lot of courage means I'm willing to try, and I understand when I try, I am not guaranteed success. I am not guaranteed success. In fact, most entrepreneurs fail. Many successful entrepreneurs fail over and over and over again until they succeed. So we don't do anyone a favor by holding people up and saying, this guy did this guy's a success. When you do what he did, you too will be a success. That's very bad mathematics. I have a degree in mathematics. That's very, very bad mathematics.
Okay, so the next question is almost leading in from Buddhism, because you also are deeply passionate about mindfulness. Yes. Could you tell me how mindfulness integrates with your work on courage?
Well, to me, mindfulness means basically one question. to me is, I just heard this recently. To me, the best question ever for mindfulness is this: am I doing, no, excuse me, am I being who I want to be right now? Am I being who I want to be right now? To me, mindfulness is not meditating, and mindfulness is not spiritual. Mindfulness is presence. What did Buddha say? I am awake. He didn't say he was a god. He said, am I awake? That's mindfulness. Now, personally, one of the measures I often use for myself every day is what percent of the day was I mindful? My average answer is about 30%, and I probably don't even deserve that. I probably don't even deserve the 30%. Why? You know, I finally realized what prohibits me from being mindful. One thing keeps that number too low. Why aren't I more mindful? Do you know why? I forget. I would be mindful, but I forget. So I have to remind myself every day to be mindful. One of my good friends in our 100 coaches is Gary Ridge, one of the top CEOs in America. He has a big chart in his office every day that just says, be mindful, be mindful. And people talk about mindfulness as if this is mysticism. To me, mindfulness is not mystical. Mindfulness is, you know, hey, am I being who I want to be right now? That is mindfulness. And we all forget to be mindful. All right, how many of you have had this? Anu, have you ever had this happen? You're going to go to Google. You're going to look up something. It's going to take 3 minutes. 3 hours later, you're still on the computer, and you have no idea why you went on the computer in the first place. What happens? We get lost. We just get lost, and we live in a world of constant temptation, constant stimulation, and it is very hard in this world to be mindful. It's very, very hard to be mindful. Why? We're constantly have triggers, distractions everywhere. So to get over this, it takes a lot of discipline and effort and courage to maintain mindfulness. And what people would like is what I call the instant answer or the quick fix. You know, the great Western disease, everything will be better when. Now, Buddhism, this is to me the essence of Buddhism. The great Western disease, it will all be better when. When I get the money, the status, the BMW, the condominium, when I make this achievement, it'll all be better when. The essence of Buddhism is no, it won't. Have you ever meditated before?
Yes.
Now, when you meditate, you know, it's a little voice talking in your head. Tick, 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 tick. Little voice yammering all the time. Tick, 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 tick. The little voice, if you understand the voice, only ever says one thing over and over. The voice says, it will be better when. Scratch your nose. Move your foot. Get a degree. Make money. The voice never shuts up. The essence of Buddhism is wrong. After you scratch your nose, you have to move your foot. After you make the money, you need more money. The essence of Buddhism is not, it will be better when. The essence of Buddhism is, be happy now. Make peace now.
So mindfulness helps to build courage. Is that what you're saying? That if you're mindful, you can automatically become more focused, more courageous?
Let me raise it backward. If you're not mindful, you're not going to know if you're courageous or not. Okay. If you're not mindful, you're just reacting.
Right, very right.
Yeah.
So my next question is, Marshall, you know, we've talked a lot about courage. We've talked that courage doesn't guarantee success. You talked a lot about the inner dialogues of courage, which is extraordinarily powerful, I think. But demonstrating courage makes me feel vulnerable. And I'm not so sure I want to feel that way. How do you actually deal with that? And how many of us would even admit to that? Particularly men, how many would actually admit to feeling vulnerable? But you do. So,
Well, I think the number is many more today than in the past. In the past, how many people would do the stuff I teach? Almost none. Today, a lot of people do it. So it's all, life is all compared to what? I mean, how many leaders in the past would do the stuff I'm talking about? None. How many leaders in India would do that? None. Well, they had to be macho, know-it-all, prove they were right all the time. So yeah, it does make you more vulnerable. How many people do this? I don't know. The people I work with all do it.
And how do you manage vulnerability in men or women? And I'm not pointing fingers. I'm saying certain things are allowed by society and certain things aren't.
Wait a minute. You're not pointing fingers. No, first she says men have this problem. And then she says it's not pointing fingers. No. He just felt like you were pointing fingers. It must be hallucinating. Oh, you're not pointing fingers. Men have this problem. I'm not pointing fingers. If that's not pointing fingers, what is, right?
Okay, I surrender. White flag. If vulnerability is part of the human condition, Marshall, how do you want people to prepare for it as a part of the coaching relationship?
Admit it's hard. Quit pretending it's going to be easy. That's why people have coaches. That's why I have someone call me every day. I don't make this up. I have someone call me every day. I know how hard this is. It is very hard to do these things. It's not hard to think about these things. It takes courage to do these things. Now, why do people have a personal trainer? They don't have the courage to work out every day. It's okay. Just admit it. You see, to me, there's two issues. One, do I have the courage to do this by myself? Or two, do I have the courage to admit I need help and get it done? But what's really important, doing it by myself or getting it done? What's important is getting it done. Not did I do it by myself. Well, my friend Alan went to Ford. He didn't pretend he knew all the answers. What did he say? I don't know all the answers. He had the courage to say, and you don't know all the answers either. Why don't we find people that know the answers? To me, that is courage. Courage is not pretending you can do everything yourself and being macho. Courage is saying, what does it take to get the job done? And having the courage to admit, I don't have the willpower to do this by myself. And I don't have the courage to do this by myself. I am a human being. I am a human being. Human beings don't like accountability. They don't like to take responsibility. We as human beings, right? We fail at our goals constantly. The gym is empty by February. It's life. That's life. It doesn't mean we're bad people. Human beings, it's hard to do this. Once you admit it's hard to do it, and you get over that silly macho, I could do it on my own nonsense. I can't do it on my own. The people I coach don't do it on their own. Life is better for everybody.
Interesting. Very interesting.
See, I think we confuse courage with what I call being macho. You know, me. I can do it. It's all about me. Well, to me, that's not courage.
Okay. So one dimension of courage, however, is forgiveness, Marshall. Would you like to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, on a 1 to 10 scale, with 10 is high and 1 is low, on the average day, how would you score yourself on forgiving yourself? Tell the truth.
Maybe a 5.
A 5. Where did you go to school?
You mean
college? Where'd you go to college? Where'd you go to college?
I went to Harvard.
Harvard. Now, Harvard, did they admit the stupid kids there that make bad scores? No. Only the smart ones go to Harvard. Very smart. Now, they go to Harvard. You must have in your life taken many tests. Did you take many tests?
Yes.
Many. And by the way, On those tests, if you scored a 5 out of 10, would you be very proud of that score or very ashamed?
I would be very ashamed.
You know, all those tests you took to help you get through Harvard,
Yeah.
none of them were as important as the test I just gave you that you failed. None of them were as important as the test I just gave you that you failed. Now, I'm going to give you a little challenge. Quit talking about this as some abstract theory and apply it to yourself. You need to forgive yourself. You need to forgive yourself. Do you want everyone you love to carry that crap around where they're beating themselves over the head? No.
No.
Quit doing it yourself. Now, I have a question for you about courage. Did you have the courage to start forgiving yourself?
That's actually a huge load off your shoulders if you're really able to do that.
That was a yes or no question, not a lecture question. Let me repeat the question. Do you have the courage to start forgiving yourself?
I'm going to try. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Oh, it was good. Yeah, see, it's very easy to get into, I like our conversation. See, it's very easy to get into this abstract lecture mode. You know, Marshall, let's talk about courage. Let's talk about what that means. What you're really saying is, let's talk about what that means to other people. Let's talk about what that means as an abstraction. Let's don't. Why don't we talk about what it means to real human beings? Much harder. Much, much harder. Very easy to talk about courage as an abstraction, some glamorous term, fancy buzzwords. It's hard. Day-to-day life is very, very hard. If you read my book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There, you read funny story after funny story after funny story. Well, you might think those people are idiots. They're not idiots. They all have IQs of 150. You know, they're all smart people and they work hard. You've met Anu, you've met many of those people.
Yeah.
They're smart people. They'll all tell you this stuff is hard to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And back to courage, I always recommend all these things we're preaching start where? Now, Anu, I'm going to ask you that question again in the future, that forgiving yourself question. Now, am I going to be happy if you tell me you got a 5 out of 10 in the future, or I'm going to be very upset with you?
You got me there. You're going to be happy.
When you give me a high score, I'm going to be happy. If you give me that bad 5 out of 10, okay. So let's
I get it. Yeah.
Raise the score.
8 out of 10.
Go for it.
Okay. Thank you.
By the way, wait a minute. Let's see. You went to Harvard. Did you typically score 8 out of 10 to get into Harvard? No, much better than 8 out of 10 to go to Harvard. Ooh, maybe your standards are a little too low on this question.
You really are excellent at this, you know. I really showed courage in calling you for this interview, Marshall. One last question. We have one last question, okay?
Anu, I have something from the audience. They have asked a couple of questions.
Okay.
Do we have opportunity for that?
We have 5 minutes. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Great. Thank you.
And then I have a final comment. So give me yours first.
All right. So Marshall, this was great coaching that you demonstrated. It was coaching in action, and we are really amazed at this. We learned a lot. In such a short span of time, you did wonderful thing. And this is a question which I'm reading from the chat box. While there are many great leaders around, yet there is an opportunity to help others become true leaders.
Yes.
So what is your advice to coaches working with these leaders? How to help them become true leaders? Yeah.
First, only work with people who care. Only work with people who want to be true leaders. Don't waste your time on people that don't care. They probably won't change anyway. And back to Anu's point, more and more leaders do care. Work with them. Really, and the others, let go. Let go. They're probably not going to get better anyway.
Right.
Really focus on people that do care. In my coaching, I only work with people that care. And if people don't care, I don't judge them. I just don't work with them. Why would I waste my life working with people who are not going to get better anyway and they don't care? I don't. It's okay. I'm not here to judge. They have their own life. As a coach, though, I always recommend only work with those people that care. And let me finish with my best coaching advice for everyone. Are we ready? I want everyone smile. Anu, you smile. Take a deep breath. Hand. Now, I want you to imagine you're 95 years old and you're just getting ready to die. Here comes your last breath. But right before you take that last breath, you're given a beautiful gift. The ability to go back in time and talk to the person that's listening to me right now. The ability to help that person be a better leader, or much more important, the ability to help that person have a better life. What advice would the wise 95-year-old you, who knows what mattered in life and what didn't matter and what's important and what wasn't, what advice would that person have for the you that's listening to me right now? Whatever you're thinking now, do that. In terms of a performance appraisal, that's the only one that's going to matter. That old person says you did the right thing, you did the right thing. That old person says you made a mistake, you made a mistake. You do not have to impress anyone but that one person. Have the courage to do what that person would recommend. When I've interviewed old people, 3 themes come up. Number 1, be happy now. Not next week, not next month, I'll be happy when. Be happy now. Number 2, friends and family and people. Never sacrifice the people you love for corporate success. Don't sacrifice your health. Understand that people are important at work and at home. Do whatever you can do to help people. And finally, if you have a dream, go for it. Have the courage to go for it, because if you don't go for it when you're 45, you may not when you're 85. It doesn't have to be a big dream, maybe a small dream. Old people, we never regret the risks we take and fail. We always regret the risk we fail to take. So finally, it's my honor to work with all of you. I love working in India. It's my favorite place in the whole world to work. I wish I could be there right now. So thank you so much for inviting me. And Anu, thank you for having the courage to put up with me for the last hour.
Well, I never realized how much it would take. Thank you so much, Marshall. Thank you. Namaste. Namaste.
Thank you, Marshall.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, NHRD. We can disconnect now.
Yeah.
No, that was fun. So Anu, did you have a good time?
I loved it, Marshall. I was so relaxed at the end of it all.
I think we're still live.